Everybody is asleep. It is still some time before Richard has to get up for breakfast. But while most people are still asleep, many are at work, doing things for other people, things which mean a great deal to the others, including Richard himself. While Richard sleeps, the men at the dairy are filling bottles with fresh milk.
Ever since we can remember, we've accepted that life is a battle of survival, where those who can adapt to the system succeed and those who can't are cast aside. People who succeed within the system are thought of as clever, and those who don't are classed as failures. What if I was to tell you that there's enough wealth to give every person on the planet a full and rewarding existence? Yet 71% of the planet live in abject poverty, while less than 1% own more than half the wealth of the planet. In 2019, for instance, the wealth created, and when I say wealth, I'm not talking about money taken from other places or invested. I'm talking about services provided, things made. Okay? If we divided that equally amongst every man, woman, and child on the planet, it would equate to around $50,000. Now, I'm not advocating each person's given an exactly equal amount. There has to be proportionate reward, but instead of having extremes where millions are homeless and a few have more wealth than they could spend 100 lifetimes, we reduce the gap. We could have a situation where everyone was allocated a reasonable roof over their heads, full healthcare, enough food and schools where we could pursue knowledge and skills to benefit both the individual and society. Instead, our teaching institutions are simply factories producing work units to keep the books of the state. So if we're allowing ourselves to spend our entire lives as the chattels of the state, we should ask ourselves who exactly the state is and how it manages to convince us to cooperate. We've seen that a tiny proportion of our societies are shallow, callous ambition junkies, and these cold-hearted robots have one main weapon to keep us looking the other way: division. The structure of society is a pyramid, and the further up the chain of command you go, the more compartmentalized it becomes, so that communication and organisation is limited and we're easier to control. They create and control every aspect of our view of reality, from media to education, so that we're essentially the audience in a grand play. They teach you their moral code, they teach you history and science, they teach you what the truth is. The grandest theatre of all is democracy. They cultivate politicians in little factories called Eton and Harrow, and once every 4 years you get to choose which of their actors you want. It's about the same freedom of choice as having a say in which channel to watch on the prison television. Prime ministers and presidents do not run countries. We essentially exist within an organised crime syndicate. The dons at the top own all the scams, which they then franchise down through the corporations until it gets down to us in the dirt at the bottom. We have numbers rackets that they call lotteries, protection rackets or insurance companies, money laundering and loan sharking are banking and finance, and drug pushing is the pharmaceutical industry, where even charities have been hijacked by them as their advertising wing. We have adverts encouraging people to start gambling. Adverts encouraging older people to sell their legacy, their homes, back to the bank, and we suffer endless legal scams via junk emails, texts and calls to legally swindle us out of money. Or we have to compete to avoid paying too much for our mortgage or energy. We even have to pay to have our bodies buried. In the meantime, they have to reassure you that the economy is a wild, independent animal that only clever people can tame. So what kind of mind does it take to control this?